What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to From the Bench. I'm your host, Will Meadows, and today is our Thursday edition where we're going to talk about what's to come this weekend when Alabama rolls into Neyland Stadium. We're also going to have a special guest on today's episode, Vol insider Austin Price, so stay tuned for his segment of the show. Before I get into anything, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and follow all the social links where the handles are listed below. So let's just get right into it. The keys to success this weekend, I think, for the Vols come down to really 6 things, but we're going to talk about 5 as we talk about one of them with Austin Price later in the show, which is the Vols getting into the game early, like scoring in the first half, which we haven't done at all in the last 2 weeks against Arkansas and against Florida. So the first one I have is getting after Milroe. Obviously, we know Jalen Milroe is the best, I think. He's definitely the best dual threat quarterback in the country right now. He's definitely the fastest. He's the best athlete on this Alabama offense. And just getting after him, not getting too far up the field and letting him find a crease and escape, but also bringing him down on the backfield for a sack. We sacked him 4 times when we played him last year at Alabama. I think we need to do more of that, get James Pierce involved early. Obviously, we have probably the best defensive line in the country, in my opinion, and a lot of people would probably agree with the same thing. So hopefully we can get after him. We know the threat he can be in the passing game, but more importantly in the running game, and the Vols have historically struggled with the dual threat quarterback. So hopefully we can bring him down and just get people. I'd like to see somebody like Joshua Josephs, who started off the year really strong. Maybe him bring him down a time or two. Omar Norman-Lott is coming off a great game with a sack and a half against Florida. So it'll be interesting to see who steps up in that defensive line group for the Vols this weekend to try and bring Milroe down. The second one I have, and it's probably the biggest thing that the offense needs to work on right now, is the O-line protecting Nico. Obviously, you can't point all the fingers to the O-line. You can't point all the fingers to Nico. Like, it's the whole team. It's the receivers, too. But the O-line's really going to have to protect Nico. Alabama is the best defensive line we've played all year, no doubt. I mean, Arkansas killed our offensive line, and they were supposed to have not a very good defensive line. Obviously, they have Landon Jackson, who's one of, if not the best edge rushers in the country. Him and James Pierce are probably right there at the one spot. But yeah, our offensive line has not been impressive at all this year, and we're about to have its biggest test so far and probably all year. So it'll be interesting to see, and we can't point fingers at Nico. Like, for Nico to have success, the O-line's got to protect him. They've got to do him some favors, let him get settled into the game. This is going to be the best team he's ever played as a redshirt freshman. So I just think mainly it's the tackles. It's John Campbell and Lance Hurd. They can't have somebody flying off the edge like they have in previous weeks. We've got to get Nico settled in the game if we want to have any chance. And again, it kind of goes all back to it. We've got to get Nico. In order to get Nico settled in order to score points in the first half, the offensive line's got to come to play. And it's also like, everybody says how good our running game is, and rightfully so, but the running game hasn't been anything in the first half of the last 2 games. So just in general, like, the offensive line's got to get pushed early and really open up this offense. Another thing that kind of ties in with that is keeping the run game going. Like I said, it's really just been a second half machine the last 2 weeks. And it seems, and I said it later in the episode with Austin Price, it seems like we're just waiting on a Dylan Sampson drive that he's really patented in these last 2 weeks. I think I said that right, patented. Anyways, he had one against Oklahoma where we literally handed him the ball every play. So we can't wait on that. We've got to get the offense getting up and going early. We've got to get the run game, because I believe we have the second best running back in the country in Dylan Sampson. So get him involved early, whether it be a pass out of the backfield. Obviously, that's not the run game, but just get his legs churning early. So getting Dylan Sampson involved early, and I think a big key to success that we're going to have is we saw some more of it this past weekend against Florida, but we're going to have to connect on a deep shot or two. Hopefully, whether that's Dante Thornton, Squirrel White, Chris Brazel, somebody just we remember the last time we played Alabama and we had Mr. Big Play Threat Jalen Hyatt, and we had a ton of long touchdowns. And I'm not asking for 5 or 6 of them like we had against them, but obviously it wasn't 5 or 6. He scored 5 or 6 touchdowns, but you get what I'm saying. We just got to have a deep shot or two, get connected, and really just get points on the board because that's what this offense needs right now. It needs confidence, it needs to play better. And the last thing I have that I think is a key to success for Tennessee is the atmosphere. Obviously, both of these teams are coming off of a bad 2 weeks. Obviously, one loss in both of those 2 weeks and a win against a sloppy win against an inferior opponent. So a lot of people aren't going to know how to pick this game because both teams haven't been playing good right now. And a lot of people are just going to say, well, Tennessee has arguably, if not the best environment in college football, so they might just pick Tennessee off of that, and hopefully that could be one of the keys to our win. It's gotta be a proactive crowd, not a reactive crowd. We can't just be loud when something's going right for us. So it's also Kalen DeBoer's first game on the road. I mean, it's his second. Obviously, Vanderbilt was his first game on the road and he lost it, but a real SEC environment, a real SEC environment test. It's the first one Kalen DeBoer's going to have. So it'll be interesting to see how he holds up. I say holds up. It's not like he's playing. It'll be interesting to see how his play calling is because obviously we've seen in our own program how play calling can change on the road. It'll be interesting to see how Kalen DeBoer coaches the game for Alabama because, again, like I said, it is his first true road test in the SEC. So without further ado, we're going to introduce our special guest, Austin Price, Vol Insider. What is going on, everybody, and welcome Vol Insider Austin Price to From the Bench. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Thank you for coming on to the episode today. And let's just get right into it. So, obviously, Tennessee plays Alabama this weekend, one of the most highly anticipated games for the Vols this year. And what do you think could be some of the big keys to success this weekend for the Vols?
Well, I think for Tennessee, they've got to learn to get out of the gates. They've struggled
Yeah.
to get off to good starts the last few weeks, and that's kind of counter to what everything Coach Heupel has done since he's been here. He's been really good at getting out of the blocks. First quarter, opening drive scores, and Tennessee the last few weeks has struggled just to do anything. They've not scored a touchdown or any points in the first half at all the last
Yeah.
two games, and so. They've got to figure some things out offensively. They're trying to get the offensive line corrected. They're trying to get Nico right, trying to get the wide receivers right. So, right now the only thing kind of working on the offensive side of the ball is the running game, but only in the second half. Even Tennessee
Yeah.
doesn't go in the first half.
Yeah, it kind of just seems like we're waiting on that one drive for Dylan Sampson just to take over. It's like he had one against Florida this past week, and then against Oklahoma, there was a play where he ran it, or there was a drive where he ran it every single play. And it seems like that's what we're just kind of waiting on. And I agree with you. Like we're gonna have to get started out of the gate to beat a team like Alabama. And again, like you said, me and Eric was on our episode last week, but before that Florida game, and I just think everything like people are complaining about the play calling and complaining about play from Nico and all of that. But you're right. I think it all stems from protection and problems with the O line right now.
Yeah, and that's right. I mean, again, I think that it's not all the offensive line, but just like it's not all Nico. It's as Coach Heupel has said, it's a combination of all things. And they can't keep shooting themselves in the foot when Nico has time. He can't hold on to the ball too long. When he doesn't have time, he's got to bail or get the ball out quicker. The offensive line's got to protect him better and give him an opportunity, and of course the receiver's got to run the routes at the right depth and run the right routes. So again, it's a combination of all.
Yeah. And so one question kind of about just how you're saying the combination of all. We talked about Nico, we've talked about the O line. Do you think there's any way a guy like the Vols could get a guy like Mike Matthews have into the game plan this weekend? Obviously, Alabama is a really good team. We saw them involved early in the Kent State game, and it's like fans keep saying like, well, we see Ryan Williams or true freshmen at other schools going ridiculous right now, and Mike Matthews was such a highly touted recruit coming out of high school. Do you think the Vols could get a guy like him involved early in this game?
Well, outside of the Kent State game, he played more last week than he's played. He played 13 snaps.
Hmm.
And does that increase this week? I don't know. We'll see. But I mean, I do think that they last week they had him back on kickoffs. We'll see if he's still
Hmm.
back there this week, and if Alabama gives him any opportunities to return kicks. But he's a dynamic playmaker. He's yet to fully prove himself. He did, flash a little bit against Kent State, but at the same time, like I get the kind of yearning to see number 10 kind of get
Yeah.
loose.
Yeah, and I get that. So going along with that, and true freshman. One question I have for you is, what do you think the Vols could struggle more with this week against Alabama? Do you think it could be Milroe's legs or the big play threat Ryan Williams just has been all year for the Roll Tide, for the
I would
Crimson Tide?
I would go Milroe's legs. I think that's always been a problem, and it's not just a Tim Banks problem. It feels like it's been a Tennessee defensive coordinator problem over the years. Is athletic quarterbacks that can extend plays, and of course when he does extend plays, if he's behind the line of scrimmage, you have to watch out for Ryan Williams or whoever to leak out, and because he does a good job of keeping his eyes up the field, much like Bryce Young. So I would definitely go Milroe's legs.
Yeah, I hope. Again, I've talked about it a lot on the show, just how Tennessee defenses has really struggled with dual threats just in years past. But against Arkansas, obviously Arkansas beat us, and a lot of people don't want to talk about that. But I feel like we kind of did a good job at keeping Taylon Green's legs in control for a relatively. I mean, he had big games like Oklahoma State. He had something like 75, 80 rushing yards, and hopefully this revamped defensive line that we've never had in my whole lifetime is what it seems like, can keep somebody like Jalen Milroe's legs under control.
Yeah, I mean Tennessee's front has got to be really good at kind of building an umbrella around Milroe, umbrella around the pocket, and not getting too far up the field and letting him kind of break contain a little bit. So I agree. I mean I think that's something that Tennessee is going to have to be very cognizant of this weekend, whether that's spying with a guy like Arion Carter or whatever. They have to know where he's at all times.
Yeah, and you bring up Arian Carter. How do you think the absence of Keenan Peely could affect the Vols this weekend in regard to keeping Milroe's legs in check?
Well, as far as I don't think Keenan would have been done a lot of the spying. But at the same time, I do think it hurts the depth at linebacker. It's definitely a blow. And for Tennessee, they don't have a crazy amount of depth there. What
Mhm.
little bit of depth they had from true freshmen, they're hurt. I mean, so I think ultimately, you've got to hope that, Caleb Perry, Jalen Smith, and then, Arion Carter and Jeremiah Lander can hold up. And you don't want to get past that because I think if you have to get past that, then it's probably not a good thing.
Yeah, and I talked about it on our episode on Tuesday. Like Milroe, his escapability is obviously incredible, but he is probably the best athlete on this team, like speed in general, regardless of
Yeah,
position. Like his ability to make defenders miss in the secondary, like he's not really looking to go down. Like he's not a normal quarterback in open space.
he's not. He's super explosive. He is probably the fastest guy on Alabama's team, and if you let him get a crease, he'll take it 65 in a blink.
Yeah, and I hope that the Vols' new revamped defensive line and just a better defense in general. I believe that it's the best defense in the country, which is not something I'm used to saying at all, especially in my lifetime. Obviously, the years with Butch Jones, we had a lot of talent, but especially what it's felt like in the later years with Heupel, it's just been offense, offense, offense. So hopefully, this new defense can keep Alabama's offense in check, all the legs, especially the running back two-headed monster they have with Justice Haynes and Jam Miller, both explosive running backs. What do you think the Vols could do to keep them in check?
Just do what you've been doing. Have a good rush. Good rush lane integrity, and just don't get keep your eyes disciplined. I mean it's gonna be easy to kind of follow Milroe because he is so dynamic, but you got to know you got to watch that ball. I mean, if he gives it, you got to know where to go. If he keeps it, you got to know where to go. So, I think the defensive line just needs to do what they've been doing.
All right. And just really, as a whole, the whole game, you don't have to give your whole prediction, but how do you see this game going on Saturday?
Oh, a number of different ways. One would think it's going to be fairly low scoring. Of course, I'm sure most everyone's going to predict this thing low 20s or high teens, and watch it end up being in the 30s for both teams. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
they're going to be able to stop each other. That happens from time to time. Everybody outthinks themselves. A lot of it will depend on if Tennessee can get out of the gate or not. If Tennessee gets out
Mhm.
of the gate, and let's say the defense keeps their streak going of 8 straight games, not allowing a touchdown in the first half, that may be far fetched, but they continue to do it.
Yeah.
If they did that, then you know Neyland Stadium will be a bubbling over at halftime, and so I think a lot of it depends on the start of the game. Can Tennessee get out of the gates? Can they, you know, continue to play really good defense? Do they get hit with the big plays? I think if you can keep Alabama in front of you, I think Tennessee's got a pretty good shot here. If they let them big play them, I'm afraid Tennessee may be in for a tough afternoon in the win-loss column. I don't think they'll get run out of the stadium, but I think their path to the victory is keeping Alabama in front of you, making them drive the field, and again, finishing off drives yourself.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like I think again, people just really kind of have no clue what to predict for this game, just because both teams started off so strong. Both teams, like we thought this could be a 1 versus 2 matchup
Well, it
going
would have
into
been
this
until two
game.
weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, both teams are kind of trending down, I guess you'd say. I mean, obviously, Tennessee has not been playing good this year. I hope that they have the talent, all the talent in the world, I think, to change that. But I'm with you. I just think if Tennessee gets started early and if they can do what Josh Heupel's done every year until what seems like the past few games, every game. If they can get out of the gates early, I think the Vols could win this one. And you're right. I think most people are going to predict this one to be ugly, just because both teams have been ugly. But I think it could very well end up 35-38, just like you said.
Yeah, again, I think it just boils down to how do the offenses start. I don't think you can get there if both offenses start and you're struggling to score. I think both teams they got to get out of the gates in this football game. The one positive for Tennessee is they'll have the home crowd behind them. That's something Alabama will not have. They've had the home crowd for all their big games this year to this point. So outside of going to Wisconsin, and Wisconsin's quarterback got knocked out in the first series
Yeah.
of the game. So well, that was kind of neutralized, and it was a noon game at Camp Randall. So this will be a 3:30 kickoff. Tennessee fans will have a chance to tailgate and have a beverage or two, and and get a little more raucous. So it should be a really good atmosphere coming up on Saturday afternoon.
Yes, sir. I'm excited for it, and I think again this it's going to be a welcome to an SEC. Obviously not for Alabama how it was for Oklahoma, but this one's at home. It's again like you said, Kalen DeBoer's first real road game in the
Yep.
SEC. So it'll be interesting how an Alabama team under him goes on the road, and it's not an easy start with Neyland because that's obviously one of the best environments in the country. Josh Pate just said on CBS that he thinks Neyland's the best and loudest environment in the country. So it'll be interesting to see how he comes out in his first real, true SEC game on the road.
Yeah. Again, I think the game plan, the start, the execution, all have to be there for both teams, or it could be a long afternoon for either team that does not execute. Does not
Yeah.
You can't turn the football over. You can't when you got some momentum like Tennessee had Saturday, you can't give up 2 sacks or get 2 holding calls or fumble the ball at the mesh point like Nico did. All those things have to be avoided.
Yeah, got to clean up everything, especially from what we've had in the last 2 weeks. Well, thank you so much, Austin, for coming on the show and taking time out of your day. It was awesome having you on the show, and go Vols.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate you, buddy.
Again, another thank you to Austin Price for coming on the show and making this episode possible. He is easily one of the most well-respected people around Knoxville and really around the state, all around the sports world of people who cover Tennessee sports. He's one of the big guys in the industry and the world of Tennessee sports. So again, big shout out to him for taking time out of his day, out of his night to come and making this episode possible. And thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for all the support you guys have given me on the last few episodes and just the support in general. It really means the world to me. Make sure you guys leave a comment of where you're watching the game, what you think could happen this weekend, what your score prediction is. I'd love to respond to some of you guys and let you guys know what I think about what you think. And whether you agree with it or not, it'd be fun to talk about it with you guys. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, like this video, and go Vols.